All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, just like I said, the plan for today is that I will go through the security model of Salesforce, that how basically and what exactly do we mean by security model? That simply means that who can see what? In very simple terms, that you have access to Salesforce, but is that when you log into your Salesforce, you can see everything available, or everybody has access depending on their role in the company, right? So like if you are CEO of the company, then you have access to everything, right? But like if you're just joined as a sales rep, for example, you don't need access to, or you don't even should not have access to maybe high level reports or stuff like that, right? So it is just one Salesforce and everybody is logged into the same Salesforce. Then how do we know that, okay, this person should have access to these things and the other person should have access to something more than that or less than that, right? So basically Salesforce has its security model, and this is something that is very a lot of questions for the admin exam come from this security. So it's very important for us to understand exactly what this is about, like what this model is. Okay. um so for this, and again, I would actually say that even when I was studying, it was confusing in the beginning that how to basically differentiate between different things that you want to lock or unlock for people. And I just want to make sure that you guys, while you're starting, you're not confused about those things. Okay. So like, okay, so this is what I have for today. So that's what agenda we have. So basically we divide the security into three main things: object level security, field level security, and record level security. The good thing about it that we can tackle both object and field level security with one shot. Record level security is a different beast. The problem happens with the exam question when people mix object and field level security with record level security. Okay, let me give a pause here. So everybody remembers what's the object, what's the field, and what's a record, right? Okay, right. So object, your main umbrella, right? Then you have fields in these, and the fields has records. Okay. If somebody has access to an object, that does not mean that that person is going to have access to all the fields in that object. Example is, even like that's my one of my work examples, that they said, okay, yeah, we do want, for example, you have contacts, right? You have like 500,000 contacts in your Salesforce. And there's like your regular users, your sales reps, everybody is logged into your Salesforce. Now the higher management says that, okay, they can have access to the email address, but not the phone numbers of everybody. So like example is like, you don't want sales reps to keep calling some executives of some different companies. They're going to get pissed, right? So why are we getting these calls? So you want to hide the phone numbers. You just want to have their email addresses available, or you want to hide the personal address, for example, home address of that person. You don't want everybody to know everybody's addresses, right? You want to protect their identity, right? You want to protect their information that you have. So, but all this information is on the contact object. Is that right? You have their phone number, their fax number, their address, their work address, their home, everything is there. So yes, everybody has access to the contact object, but it doesn't mean that they will have access to all the fields on the contact object. That is one kind of security, right? So object, can that person see that object? Okay, yes, he can. From that object, can that person see the fields on that object? Yes or no? We don't know. Okay. Then now, totally different separately, depending on what fields they have access to, can they see all records or can they see specific records? So one of the sales reps is working on US accounts. Do they need have access to all the contacts in UK? They don't, right? although they have access to the object and they do have access to the fields, but they can only see Mr. John Smith from USA, but not Miss Jane something from UK. No, because he doesn't need to, right? So all these are similarly, the sales rep that's working in UK doesn't need access to the records in USA, right? So again, 3 things that we need to look at: object level security, field level security, and then record level security, okay? Again, just like I said, object and field can be tackled in one shot. And so yeah, so that's what it is. Object and fields can be tackled by the first 3 things, which is profile, permission sets, and permission set groups. Records is a totally different beast. It is not really tackled by profiles and permission sets and permission set groups. It can be tackled by org-wide defaults, role hierarchy, and sharing rules. And sharing rule has like a lot different things, which I think when you understand that, you'll be able to go through the trailhead and you can understand that, because there is sharing by ownership, there is sharing by rules, and then there is also manual sharing. And actually, if you really, go further, there is even sharing by doing programming, Apex sharing, okay? So there are different ways that you can share records with others. So, okay, so example of that is, okay, the US people only have access to US accounts, and the UK sales rep only has access to the UK sales. But one of the UK sales reps said, oh, I know that person in USA. Can I have access to just this one record? Okay, then you can do a manual share and you can share that record with that person. So, there are needs where, and sometimes there are sharing where you can set rules. Again, you can go into detail of that, but yeah, that's the overview of how sharing works, okay? So again, different things. One block is profile and permission sets. Another block is org-wide defaults, role hierarchy, and sharing rules. Okay, first one is the object level security. First thing is the profile. When you give user a profile, that defines what objects they can see. So it is defined, and I will show you on the org as well how you set up a profile and how it is defined on the profile. Profiles basically define what is, anybody knows what CRED means? C-R-E-D? And then create, read, edit, and delete. So your profile will define whether you have permission to create a record in this object, or you can just read, you can edit, or you can delete. If you, for example, create the delete button, you will automatically get the permission to read, edit, and I think create as well. So yeah, so that's how it defines. Sometimes you're allowed to create, but you can't delete. You're allowed to read, but you can't edit it. So this all is defined through your profile number 1. But the rule here is that you keep the profiles at the minimum level. So you give the minimum access using profiles. You don't give a lot, because one thing, to the most part, like almost to the most part, which is a thumb rule, you can always open up access for people. You can't restrict. So when you assign somebody a profile and that has access to contact object, opportunity object, and account object, right? You cannot now after that add a permission set to take away access from somebody. That's not possible. Yes, if you have given access to account, contact, and opportunity object to a person, you can create a permission set to add more access. So remember, with permission sets, we can't take away access, but we can give more. We can open up it always. So profile is supposed to be something that minimum a person should be able to do. Okay. Another important thing about profile to remember is we should not be, as a best practice, creating like 1,000. If we have 1,000 employees, so we should have 1,000 profiles. No. we should have minimum number of profiles. So like, for example, all the sales reps, they have one profile. But now some are more senior than others. So what can we do? We can add a permission set for them. Okay, they can have a little more access. For example, they can have some more report access, or they can have some more access to some more fields than the junior sales reps, right? So that is something that is a best practice, and that should be done. Other things that, of course, adds to the profile is your profile can have access to the page layouts, which page layout so as like if you have, I don't know how much you have seen, but like, for example, there's a contact object. Now, maybe US team has fields that are related to, and I think simple example here is the address, for example. In USA, the address is written slightly different than the UK. So you add another field to add maybe, I don't know, street or apartment number or something, which is common in UK, but not common in USA. Now that field is not needed in USA page layouts. It's only needed in UK page layouts. So you can have two separate page layouts for UK and US. But now the people who have the UK profile will only have access to the UK page layouts. And those who have the USA page layouts, USA profile, they will only have access to USA page layouts. So in the similar way, you can have, for example, people who need different things, you can have different page layouts for them. Of course, again, there shouldn't be a lot of page layouts, but yes, as many as they're required. So, and record types also define, for example, if you have a pick list value, a lot of times a pick list can have a lot of values, but not all of them are relevant to everyone. So like, there's a pick list. I don't know if I want to think of an example here. Yeah, I can't think of, but like, usually we have some pick list in which 4 of the values are important for the USA ones, and 3 of them are important for UK ones. So the UK profile can only see those 3, and the USA profile will be only able to see those 4. So that's how we can limit the access, okay? And, just like I said, that profiles should have minimum level of access. And what happens next is that you give permission sets. And something that recently started, I think probably last year, which is called permission set groups. So you can combine permission sets. So what used to happen is that you can create a permission set. For example, that profile did not have access to lead object, but a few people on that profile also do the go-to-market stuff, and they are creating leads. So they should have access to leads. So, okay, let's create a permission set and give it to those 5 users so they can create leads as well. Yeah, sure.
For example, like you have this requirement, okay, a user needs an extra permission to see maybe leads. So now, as a big organization, do you already have those permission sets in in your Salesforce, or you need to create one for every time you have a requirement coming?
Yes, that's a very good question. The question was that the permission sets, are they already available, or do we need to create them? So the answer is yes, we have to create those permission sets. Depending on our needs, what permission we want to give them, we create those permission sets and we keep them for those users that need it.
So what is permission set for XYZ needs one permission set. So that permission set is allotted only for that particular user or users.
Users, yes.
Managers.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, so we cannot use any built-in permission sets.
There are built-in, but a lot of times those are very generic ones. A lot of times the use case that companies have are very unique. So like, for example, there may not be any permission set that would give access to just the leads object. Or it could be a permission set just in the contacts object, and all the fields in the contacts object give that person access to the address field. That's a very unique permission set, right? That you want to give only to that person. So yes, you have to create those permission sets. And another thing that you can do is, like, for example, you have different permission sets, and the problem was that each user had to be given that, okay, one permission set, second, third. So then let's say there's a group of users who need all these 3 permission sets. So what you can do is you can make a group of those permission sets and just assign one group. In that way, they will get access to all 3 of them in one go. So that is another thing that basically recently started, probably a year ago.
Practice would be just make a new permission set and give that access to.
Yes. If that permission set is not there already, then yes, create a permission set. So for example, there's some finance field, that profit or revenue that not everybody has access to. So you keep that permission set and only assign, let's say a new manager just joined. And now that manager needs access to that revenue field. So yeah, so that permission set is now already there. Now you can simply assign that to that person.
All those requirements, I mean, we need to check mark all of those, requirements, what is being needed for that person, and we have those in our permission sets.
So yeah, no, that's fine. That's absolutely good. Yeah. So yeah, first, if a new person joins, then first we have to see what's the what's the minimum that person requires. So we select the profile accordingly. The first thing is selecting the profile.
Have a minimal
yes.
So what if now after 6 months that XYZ person has to be given a view for maybe
yes
or
money, sure,
whatever.
Yeah.
So I do have a permission set for it and when I give, for example, it's you. If I want to give you that permission set, do I have to go through all of those requirements which have been given to me for you in that org?
No, if that permission set is already created, you simply assign that user that permission set and you're done. Okay, so you know that, okay, this person needs access to the revenue field and you have a permission set that says access to revenue. Okay, and you simply go through all the permission sets, and I can show you where we can find those in Salesforce and how we do this. And then you simply assign that person that permission set. Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. Okay. Just like I said, now second thing is after object is the fields. So inside the object, we have fields, and not everybody has access to all the fields. So what we do is same thing. Profile can be used to give access to not only objects, but all the fields inside the object. And again, I'm going to show you how. Okay. And maybe what we can do is we can pause here, go to the org, see this, and then come back to record level security so it's more clear. Okay. So just like I said, profiles and permission sets also control the field level access. Okay, now let me go here and I can actually show you here. So I just logged into this. Okay, you go to your setup, and if you have any org open, you can actually go see yourself as well. You go to setup. And you're right, it's slow. Okay. So whenever you have a user, so like for example here, I have this user, and you can see here that the user has a profile, right? So that is the profile. There's another thing which is called role that is related more to the record level security, which I'm going to come to later. But role is not mandatory. It's not a field that you have to do. Profile, you have to select. You cannot create a user without a profile. Okay. So let's just like if I go here and if I try to create a new user, you can see here, you can leave the role as non-specified, but you have to have a profile. So like, for example, I think I can create here one more user. I don't remember, but you can see here that there are a few profiles that are already available. These are called standard profile that come in the package with Salesforce. Okay, so these are already there, which we call out of the box, OOTB, which means out of the box. So these are available, starting from the system admin that has every access. They can do anything they want. And then, of course, I think the read-only ones has very limited access. So, and everything is in between. Something to remember here is you cannot edit standard profiles. Okay, you cannot edit the standard profiles. But If you want to assign people, it's always a best practice that people have their own profiles. What you can do here is inside users, there's profiles. And when you are, for example, so these are all standard profiles here. When you're creating a new profile, like I go to system admin here and I clone this. So when I clone this and I have to give a name, so for example, I say test admin and I save this. Now here I can basically, now this one, the system admin one is already cloned. Now I can take away something that I don't want to give my test admin one, right? So, and okay, just let me do one more thing, which I guess you guys can also do. User manage, yeah, that's something that you should do, which is this one. Enhanced profile list views. Oh, sorry. Enhanced profile user interface. If you go to user management settings, and in there, go to enhanced profile user interface and click enabled. And you can turn it off as well if you don't like it. Okay. This is just the change of the view of profiles. I like this view better. It is more easy interface. So yeah, I usually have this one, but if you like the other one better, you can always switch this off and go back. Okay. So let me go back to this profile. Again, just like what I did was, so like, yes, so I don't think it got created. Oh no, it did. Okay, there you go. I have this profile, and if now you see, now it has changed. It looks different now, okay? So now here, basically what I can do here is, just like I said, it has, if you go down, it has system permissions. This is also something that you will know a little advanced settings, like for example, how people can log in, password settings, security settings, multi-factor authentication, like, how do they allow you to log in? Okay. So these things are right here. There are system permissions, which means whether you will have access to the reports or not, you will have access to dashboards or not. And you can actually go even, click this and look at how many things that it allows here. So if you see here, there are like a lot of different things that you can give access or take away access here. Okay. So if you see LC, create and customize reports, create and customize list views. So in these profile that I just created, I can edit this and I can change. But for the out of the box system admin one or any out of the box one, I will not be able to do this. Okay, so it's a best practice to always clone an existing profile and then make changes, because a lot of things will be already populated. Okay, so that's how you do this. Okay, so yeah, so this is something system permission will probably do sometime later, where it's like more overall things, and also related to the login and stuff like that. But what I wanted to show right now here is, let's see, go back here to profile overview, and basically you go to object settings. Now here, if you see here, for example, I have accounts object right here. So this, of course, I just cloned the system admin one, right? The system admin one has access to everything, right? So it has access to, what is the object permission I have here is all of it. I can modify everything here, okay? Now, for example, these are all the objects. Some are the ones that are internal objects, which are usually, not available or hidden as well. So it shows like everything here. But if you go here to, let's say, contacts, where's contacts? The contacts right here, I can see here that I have access here. Okay. So now if I click this contact object, so here is the information that I can basically set only if it loads. Okay. So here, just like I was talking about, you can give the read, create, edit, and delete object permission for the object. And then here are all the fields on this object. And you can actually change the access for that person, whether you want to give them read access, edit access, or no access. Like if I remove it, for example, if I'm not giving, I remove the read access, edit access is gone by itself. Okay. If I give edit access, everything comes back. Okay. But maybe I only want them to see account name and not change it. Like, okay, I created the account, the name, and I don't want anybody to edit it or delete it. So you can only see it, but you don't delete it. Okay. So I can even do that. Any questions so far here? Yes. Oh, let me try that. Oh, sorry. Got it? Okay. So yeah, it's better? It's okay. Okay. So yeah, so just like I said, that within your object, I was saying you actually define on the profile what page layout that person is able to see. Right here, from here, you define whether that person or that profile has access to object on what level, whether they can just read it or they can create a new record in that. Okay. And then we go granular into the fields. So here are all the fields mentioned here. And of course, there are some that are grayed out, means, yeah, we cannot change it. Of course, we cannot change the contact owner. Why is that so? Because according to Salesforce, the contact owner is the person who created the record. If the record is created by him, that you cannot change. Okay, so it's not editable, it's not changeable. So, but yeah, all the other things, if you can see here that these don't have access. If I want to give access, I can. Okay, so that's how I set up a profile. Is that clear? Okay, all right.
Can we create custom profiles as well?
Absolutely. This is the custom profile that I just created, test admin.
Just cloned it, but from the starting.
You can. It's just that it's going to be a lot of work checking each and every box. And that's a lot of boxes. So yeah, so that's going to be a lot. I don't think anybody does that. So yeah, you take up anyone. Like for example, you want to create a sales rep, for example. You take a standard user profile and clone that. You want to have somebody who's executive level. Okay, clone executive level profile and do that. And nobody really starts from scratch. It's going to be a lot of work. Okay. So that is one thing about profiles. If that is clear, I can move on to permission sets. Okay. So here are permission sets. If you see here, I don't know if these came with the, honestly, I don't know if these came with the, I think in the playground, we installed a package as well, I remember, right? So there might be some that came with the package as well. So, and there are few that are standard ones, which came out of the box with Salesforce. But again, same thing, I can create new permission sets here. So here is the new button. I can create a new permission set. For example, just like I said, I give an example that I want somebody to get access to lead object. So I can say it's going to create the API name. And it's always a good practice to add a description, because you will not remember what title you gave, and somebody else created it and they gave some title which is not even understandable. So it's always good that you have a description. So I can just write down read only permission for, I'm just making this up just to see how it works. Okay. And then I say, yeah, it is my Salesforce license. And we'll go more detail on licenses later. You don't have to really, worry about this. This is very high level, and this is more about how Salesforce sells the product to different companies. Now, if I see here, it's the same screen that you see in profiles, right? But if I open this, you will not find anything here. You see the profile that I opened, it has read create, but this one, it has nothing. Because this, now I'm starting from ground zero, right? So I go to that, for example, lead object right now. I should have done. CH. L. There you go. I go to lead object and I do edit here. And I say that I give lead. Save. Now, this is something that, yeah, another important thing here is right now I don't have users here, but for example, you create a user and you give this permission to that user to see whether it works or not. Another good practice here is like, okay, so this is done. And then I can do manage assignments. With manage assignments, right now I don't have another user here, but usually if you have a user, you can actually edit assignment here and you can give, I have only this one user and that user is an admin. So that won't really make a difference if I assign this user that permission, right? Because this user already has access to leads, right? But yeah, for example, there's a user that does not have access to leads. So I give this and then I can see that that person now is able to read the lead object. So yeah, so that's how I do it. I simply click this, I do next, and that is assigned. Okay, so that's how permission sets are assigned. Cool. Awesome. Okay, so that was about profiles and permission sets. The next thing that I have is, that was done. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. That was the old one. Okay, there you go. Okay, we did the field level security. And the next one that I have is record level security. Okay, again, now within those, just like I gave example, is that there are different records and not everybody should have access to everything, right? So the companies first decide on what really, by definition, what they want their organization to be. It can start all the way from private, where nobody can see anything except for my own record. So I created this, so I have access to it. Nobody else can see that. The person sitting right next to me created his own contacts. Only they can access their contacts and I can access my contacts and you can access your contacts and that's it. That is called private model. To all the way up to public read write. Public read write means everybody in the company can see everything and they can edit everything. Okay, so everything else is in the middle. Okay, private means,
Administrator,
say that again, sorry.
administrator who has all.
Yes, system admin will have access to everything. But other than system admin, so like for example, everybody in the company, nobody will have access to other people's record. So I created Mr. John Alexander. So only I have access to Mr. John Alexander. You are in the same company, you also logged in, but you cannot see John Alexander because I own that record. You don't, right? You own your records, I own my records. Yes, system admin can see everything. Okay, so apart from system admin, nobody else sees anybody else's record unless they're shared. Okay, unless they share it. That is called a private model. Okay, so you start by that model. First thing is you define your model. Okay, public read write, again, just like I said, that means everything is open. You got a login access into this Salesforce, you see everything. That usually doesn't happen. Again, the best practice is to keep it to the minimum level if possible. So usually companies keep it to private and then they open up access. Okay, same rule apply here. You can always open up access. Once you define your org level sharings, you cannot take it away. So let's say you did the public read write. Now it's not possible for you to say, okay, now you cannot see this. No, now it's not possible. Okay, because you have already given access to everything in the company.
What if that happens?
Hmm?
What if that happens by mistake? I mean, that happens that you've given that, that permission to a particular user or he can see worldwide. I mean, I've done a mistake.
Uh-huh.
So can that be?
Yeah, you can change it back to private model. It's just one click away. You can change it back to private. As a system admin, you can, yeah. So you had, like, for example, made, so there might be reasons why you might want to have some object as public object because you want everybody to see everybody else's record. So like, for example, like one of the project that I work on, the records are, so important field here is, just like I mentioned, is the owners of the record. The owner is somebody who created the record. Okay. That field is called owner ID. Now, a lot of cases, it may or may not be relevant that the person who really owns the record also created the record. So like, for example, the example that I was about to give was in a client that I was working with, the owners, they don't create, their reps create it. So now, okay, they created it. So Salesforce thinks that they are the owner, but actually they are not. They are the other partners or principals. They are the ones who are actual owners of that record, right? So now they need access to that. So one way of doing it is creating, what comes next is role hierarchies. Okay, you can create role hierarchies to give access. I'll come to that later. But there could be reasons why you might have more than, private sharing model, which is public read only, for example. Public read only means that I create the record and everybody else can see it, but they don't get the permission to edit it. Only I can edit my record, but others can see it. It's not hidden from them. Okay, so that's another model. And the third one is public read write, which means everybody can see everything. Okay, so yeah, and also if you think that the owner or the person who created the field may or may not necessarily own, a lot of times the data is coming from some integration. So if some integration created that user, that doesn't mean that that integration not even a person, right? It just came. For example, data came from MailChimp. Leads created by MailChimp, right? MailChimp creates reels, but that doesn't mean MailChimp owns. MailChimp does not know. So people would own that. So either you create a flow to change the owner ID, which is also possible. You can create that. But other than that, you need to have a model where everybody can see leads. Okay, so that depends on every company. Okay, so that is one thing. So your first part is all by default. Now, that comes all the way in the end. Now, how do you open up some more records? By using role hierarchies. Now, what is the role hierarchy? Role means that I'm a sales rep, I report to my manager, and my manager reports to a senior manager. The senior manager reports to a director, right? So whatever I can see, my manager should be able to see as well, but I should not be able to see everything that my manager can see, right? Okay. Now, whatever the manager can see, the director should be able to see as well, right? So, opening up. So when you define a role hierarchy, that automatically gives access to the person who's above you in the role, in your division. Okay, so you have a US, that doesn't mean that the UK director can have access to US sales rep. No, they are two separate, right? But the USA sales director can have access to all the people under him, his manager, his sales rep, even somebody even junior than that, he have access to everything. So if you turn on role hierarchy, it's not turned on by default. Okay, if you turn on role hierarchy, then by default, everybody above you can see the records that you own. Okay, that's what role hierarchy is. Any questions?
The role hierarchy and the role in profile is the same.
They're the same, yes.
So when we select the roles
Hmm.
in our profile, that will be aligned to the role hierarchy.
Yes, and then we have to define the role hierarchy there. That's another thing that you need to do. Actually, every company will have a different type of role hierarchy, and also that role hierarchy doesn't have to match your actual designations in your company. It may or may not. It can be different. It depends on what you want to have access in Salesforce. Your role hierarchy in Salesforce only depends on what you want one person to see. That's all. Okay. Any other questions on this? Cool. Yes, create, read, update, and delete. Okay, the next thing that can give you, yeah, I think it's the same thing. Yeah, the next thing here is the sharing rules. Sharing rules mean one thing, the most simple thing is you can actually manually share your record. So I want you to see one of my records because you know him somehow, I have a lead, but you also know him. So, okay, let me share it with you too so we can work on it together. Okay. I manually shared it because there is really no rule. It's just that, oh, you told me that you want access to it. I gave you access. Okay. That is manual sharing. Then there is something called, I think there is criteria based sharing. Criteria based sharing means that whenever this happens, give access to this person. So, for example, I know a lot of people in Microsoft. So, whenever I have a lead that works for Microsoft, automatically give access to Jabin because Jabin knows a lot of people in Microsoft. So, yeah, she should know that we just created a lead in that works in Microsoft. Okay, so that is called criteria based sharing or rule based sharing. You define a rule. So, whenever this happens, give access to this person or this group. So sharing can be done to one person and sharing can also be done to a group of people. We can create groups, which is called public groups. That's another thing. Okay. And then there is a third thing, which is programming based sharing as well, which is again high level that we don't need it right now. But yeah, there's there are a lot of different conditions that may not be met by just doing a criteria. There can be a lot of and or stuff going on, right? So that can be done using programming. So yeah, any questions here? Yep. And I can quickly show you this as well. Okay. So here are the roles. So basically you can set up roles, and I don't want to do this because you will have something in Trailhead that you're going to do roles anyway. So yeah, so we can do it from there. The rest is, I think you can find the org-wide sharing settings. If you go to sharing settings, here you can see this is called the org-wide defaults. So you can see here in lead, it is public read write transfer. Public read. So I can actually, if I edit this, and you can see here, if I did private, public read only, and public read write. So private is the most secure one, and public read write is completely open for everyone. So basically that's how, yeah, so you can define internal. External access means people who have access to your Salesforce org through external systems. Mostly it's through your website and those things. Again, this is something that you'll learn later on. But yeah, for now, we're talking about the internal access where mostly there are three. Another thing that is important here is control by parent. That is another thing that comes where any object is linked to another object as a parent. So like, for example, I think the contact is linked to account. So whatever you have on the account object, so contact will have the same thing. It will just take it from account object. Same is the case with, for example, I think case is also something that is, yeah, I don't know about case, but this one, like, for example, order, I think it goes with opportunity. So yeah, I'm forgetting, but I think that's how it is. So if the parent object has certain setting, the child object will also take the same setting if you define control by parent. Okay, so that's what it is.
This is like linking to objects.
So these objects are already linked because of some link that we already defined, right? For example, account and contact, they are linked, right? Account is the company that the contact is working on. So in fact, yeah, contact is yes. So like, for example, if you want to say that, oh, if I can see all Microsoft contact, the Microsoft account, then I should be able to see all the contacts in Microsoft. Do I want to have set up that way? So if I have access to one company, I should have access to all the contacts in that company that work for that company. Do I want to have certain this thing? If I do, then I should select control by parent. But if I don't want that, I want them to be independent. I want, like, okay, I don't have access to Microsoft, but I do have access to these few people who work for Microsoft. But yeah, but when I'll click on Microsoft, it won't take me anywhere. I won't be able to see their company, but at least I can see their record. So that is also possible. Okay, so both things are possible. It depends what rule you want to set. If you want to set that rule that no, if I don't see the company, I don't get to see the contacts as well, then I do controlled by parent. Okay.
So when we have such requirements, we need to know what to do with that requirement too, right? I mean, we need to be that fluent so that when a requirement comes in, I know where to navigate myself. It's a sharing route or is it a permission set?
Yes. And one thing to remember here is, again, keep your mind separate for records and object and fields. A lot of times in the beginning, and that, working is going to come later ahead, even for passing the exam and to tackle those questions, this is what people really get confused when it comes to is this question about record sharing or is this about field sharing? So people get confused. So that's something that if you're clear in the beginning, that's going to really help you, I think, get through 5 or 6 questions. So yeah, I will try to send a few learning videos as well, resources as well, so you are able to understand that better. But I know I struggled with this as well in the beginning when you don't know the stuff. When you're working, actually, there are like different things. Like, for example, a lot of times people have a giant workbook, which they do it with the company people that, okay, what do you want people? Do you want access? First, we want people to define, okay, what are your personas? One persona is, I don't know, call them managers. Another persona is UK sales. Another persona is US sales. You define them. Now you start defining what do they need. And you have all the objects listed and you do it like, we do it using a workbook, Excel worksheet. So a lot of times we do that way. Sometimes we ask them to fill it out for us. Sometimes we do it on call with them as well. So yeah, so that's another way. And then we start entering data here. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of tedious work, but yes, that's how.
I love the whole piece. I'm really enjoying it. But the fact for me is to understand if I get a requirement, I mean, where do I go? Because I'm kind of a little lost.
It happens.
And then I start panicking and then
oh, it's gonna it happens, girl. So okay. So I think that's all I had for